dancing, but you can't see me.
I can hear it.
Yeah.
Sounds like dancing.
Mm-hmm. Or stomping. Yeah.
That's a nice little graphic you got there. That's adorable.
Isn't that good? Yeah. I try to do that, 1% improvement thing in a bunch of different areas, and
Yeah.
I've been guitaring it like a moron lately. It's been good. I've got brand new calluses.
That's how I guitar all the time.
Seconds, guys.
I know, it's a dream. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to bring us in as the chat already grabs it. There we go. Hold on. And bang, Johnny May. There he is. Caught you mid-eating. What is that? Tater tots? No,
They're
you're
the
eating...
peanut butter filled pretzels.
Understood. Right, gotcha.
Oh, my word. Very good for on-air food.
Yeah, crunchy and will gum your mouth up and also make you salivate so you're smacking your lips. It's great.
Yeah.
You're a pro.
It's the big
That's
three.
amazing. I have been carnivore for a month now. Like 100%.
Oh, wow.
Zero carbohydrates at all. It's been wild.
How's the pooping
10
going?
seconds.
Spectacular. It's great. Thanks for asking. It's been good. It's been actually pretty easy going, actually. No pun intended.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubble.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
I'm, welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Saturday. Glad you could be with us. It's fantastic. Johnny Million is with us, and he is, he has chosen as his on-air snack a threefer, an absolute. Yeah, he's got those peanut butter filled pretzel bites, which again crunch on the air, slow your speech because of the gumminess of the of the peanut butter inside, and then of course make you salivate with the salt and everything else.
Ooh,
so
and
that
sometimes the peanut butter
it falls
comes
out. Yes, it's right, and it's a weird little dry
pure peanut butter bite. Oh my god!
And it's when you have to kind of have that moment of it's not really peanut butter. They kind of dehydrate.
It really is nothing
where
like
you're
peanut butter.
Really disappointed. It's like when we were in high school and a combo would break open, and you're like, it's not really cheese. It's sort of a weird powder. They just kind of squeeze it. That's not pizza filling in there. I was expecting when they break them open on a commercial, pizza slices fly out, and it's really
exactly, yeah, but no, not quite. Look, Bobby Brunswick coming in with a super chat right out of the gate.
Well, thank you. Look at that.
We love you back,
it.
Bobby.
And Therese, thank you as well. Thanks for supporting the show. Welcome, and thank you to our patrons, especially for helping us be here every week. Patreon.com/AlSparks. Support indie media. We're being shadow banned. Do you think they bought it? I don't.
I love shadow ban.
I want to be shadow banned. So lots going on. Obviously, one of the areries I think
How's
people
Mitch
have
McConnell?
He's got a concussion, or he had a concussion. He's recovering. Again, he's one of those guys where I wish him physically well. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't need to win a political argument because of someone's demise. I consider that a version of losing.
There's some Daily Show correspondent who had a TikTok of just him going, "Oh no, I hope he's okay."
Right. That's hey, it's a character building exercise.
Yeah.
And people are already praising your prong shirt. Infotainmentwars.com. So,
nice.
Lots going on. The biggest one being, and I think is, continue to be right, as you are aware, Johnny Million. And
almost every show starts off like this.
Well, it's because I am. If I wasn't, I would. It would be
very
obvious.
Awkward.
Yes, that I was avoiding the conversation. But one of the things that I said when the Republicans, got a couple of votes over margin and allowed them to take control of the House. Was that these committees that they were going to form to go after weaponization of government to Jan 6 and Dr. Fauci were not
Boy,
only
that
going
didn't
to
go
be...
good. That didn't go so good at all.
No, it did not go so good. But everybody was like, oh dear, it's gonna be terrible, and they're gonna dredge up and blah 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 and attack people, blah. And honest to God, they've been a joy to watch. If you haven't had a chance to see some of them, I mean, it is popcorn viewing. It is.
The arguments and the points they're hoping to make are dismantled by one follow-up question.
Right. It's so good. It's exactly that. It's just a rake stomping contest, and they're just like flack.
Because all of those, the fake weaponization of the government was developed inside their echo chamber with apparently no regard for fact check.
Right. Nobody's pushed back on them. And that is the danger. And that's why I warn people away from jargon talk. That's why I warn people away from just, single sourcing your information and especially your opinions. You should multi-source.
Right.
You can single source some of your facts because if it's a fact, it really only needs one source. But your opinions on what those facts mean sometimes, as far as statistically or materially or emotionally, you can kind of see how they're affecting other people differently than yourself. That's wherein diversity would say be your strength, where you can go, oh, I might have heard this fact and taken it in stride, but this person heard this fact and freaked out. So maybe I should ask them why and say, okay, well, there's a secondary impact of this particular fact that I'm not aware of. That kind of conversation. That's great. But when you single source your opinions about what things mean, you really do back yourself into a corner. And that's exactly what happened. And the sort of constant panic attack that Jim Jordan is having running the weaponization committee is hilarious. This week, Matt Taibbi.
Hal Vickery is insane, by the way.
Oh, Hal Vickery, bless you so
certifiable.
much. He's a wonderful human being, and he's a gift to all around him. And by the way, also, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Robert Brunswick. And excellent. Okay, these are coming up in my feed after. You see them first. But thank you so much, Hal Vickery. There, I've been here, just been having brunch. Oh, that's lovely. Well, that's good. I'm glad I hope you're having, hope you're
Who doesn't love a good brunch?
Yeah. I guess Bill Burr. But okay.
Bill Burr can find a way to be upset about it.
He has. He's got a bit about brunch. He does.
Oh yeah, he does hate brunch. I forgot about that.
He has an angry bit about so which is, by the way, like par for the course at some point. When your job is to be irritated at everything.
Exactly.
It's like I kind of know it's
not funny. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, Bill, I see what you're doing.
Simmer. But yeah, in this particular case, it's good. So a couple of things to cover. So Matt Taibbi and Schellenberger and Barry Weiss didn't actually speak, but basically two of the three, the men, I guess that's a point too. The men from the Twitter files were invited by the Republicans to speak in front of the Weaponization Committee. And let me tell you what the result of all of the Twitter files have been to date and will be going forward. You ready? You want to know?
Ready.
What it's a wash. There is no governmental control and no one was censored. Twitter made up its own damn WW131. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Made up its own damn mind.
Wes. That's crazy, Wes.
Yeah. Bless you. They're all. It's become a contest amongst other people, and it helps. So great. It's always
thank you.
Great. We are at 48.5K. We're headed towards 50. Please subscribe at YouTube, on Twitch, or wherever your preferred outlet is. Now, beyond all of the Twitter files, if you read them, and I have, by about the sixth. In some cases, it happens right away. But by the sixth or seventh tweet, there has to be a caveat. There's still some semblance left of journalism, I guess, underneath, Matt Taibbi's, job as a stenographer for a megalomaniacal billionaire who bought a social media platform to own the libs. Beyond that, he still has this, I'm going to have to put this on my Substack, and if I'm going to use Elon Musk's money to build my Substack magazine, which is exactly what he's doing. It's called, do you know what it's called, Johnny Million? Do you know what it's called? Do you know what the name of Matt Taibbi's Substack magazine is? You're gonna love it. You're gonna. I don't know if you don't know. Oh my God, what's it called?
I don't know it. Freedom Files.
Nope. It is called his paper when he was an expat living in Russia for somewhere like 7 years. He had a magazine, a zine they did there that made fun of expats and sexually harassed women in their office. There's a big story that Chicago Reader, we've covered this before, that he and his fellow, he's gross. They used to they wrote vile stuff about the Russian women that was in their stuff, and they would constantly, go look it up. It's stuff I can't share on the air. But it was called The Exile, which, by the way, was ironic because, which was back then it was ironic because they left willingly and went to live in Russia. I don't know why they felt like they were exiled. By the way, if they criticized the Russian government now, they would be exiled from there if they were even allowed to leave. But here they can talk whatever crap they want, and that's fine. And that's great. That's part of being an American. It's awesome. But so that was called The Exile, and he lived there for like 7-8 years. From in his 20s. And, those are the years that'll shape you. But what's his Substack called, Johnny Million? What is it called? You're going to love it. What is it called? It's called The Racket.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Unironically, I think he thinks he's talking about other people, but he's really just informing on himself. It is... shall be and is properly named The Racket. And the head reporters at The Racket, which, by the way, are Schellenberger, Barry Weiss, and those that Matt Taibbi hired with the money given to him by Elon Musk to write the Twitter files from select communications delivered to a third party and then to them. And we don't know if the third party is Elon Musk just getting the stuff and handing him a hard drive, or if he creates this kind of like 1 degree of separation just for the hell of it, but he gives it to another group and then they give it to them. That's the theory. But Taibbi comes on and he said he will not, quote, name his source. Now, I will. His source is Elon Musk. Now, how would I know that? I'm not privy to the internal. Because Elon Musk bragged about it and bragged about bringing Matt Taibbi in to look over this stuff and bragged about giving him full access to employee personnel files and personal communications without the permission of those employees after they had been let go. And by the way, not for cause. Those people were not fired because of stuff in those communications. Therefore, they were committing fraud against the company or anything. This was just their decision-making in line with the company. So the lawsuits, here's the main reason I think why he won't, quote unquote, name his source right now, is because there are going to be a bunch of employee lawsuits about the information given to Matt Taibbi and those guys by Elon Musk, by the new purchaser of Twitter, and that's illegal. That's a violation, at the very least, civilly violation of their employment contract. Yeah. So, like, hilarious, a farce, annoying, what have you. But the primary takeaway from the Twitter files, both in print on Twitter and later, I guess, when they're side published on Substack, because that's the deal he made with Elon Musk. He's talked about it in the press. He made a deal with Elon Musk. To get access to this stuff, he has to first publish the story on Twitter in these like 50 tweet threads. Then he can put it on Substack. That was the arrangement. That's the agreement. That's the financially beneficial agreement that he has come up with. And they have agreed to. It is his employer and an investor in the racket, which is just, come on. The racket, you sad, sad little people. So we got to take a break, but when we come back, I just needed to address that. And by the way, Plaskett is my hero, the ranking member on that committee. She is just we are all her anger. It is so good. She's just had it up to here. it's just glorious, and she's, I mean, like, she just knows how to, like, needle Jim Jordan and irritate him. It's fantastic. It's just, I can we draft her for president at some point? I'm dead serious. Holy
the
smokes.
Republicans' body language when they're getting owned is
it's so good.
They're really bad at it.
It's so good, though. It's so nice to watch. It's popcorn. I told you. That's what I was right about. These would be useless to the plan that they have, would absolutely kick back on them, and not move the ball forward for their team at all, and would end up them scoring on their own goal multiple times. And the more they do this, the worse it will get, because they opened with their best stuff. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Now with 100% more. Johnny Million. Philip Hittner will be joining us in the second hour. Yeah, check out my Malcolm Nance interview from yesterday that I did in the morning show. It was a good time. We'll be back.
Oh yeah, we get to spring forward tonight.
That's like one of my favorite jokes that I wrote in the early 90s, Johnny Million. Was about daylight savings time. I would, it was like an audience follow along where I go, oh yeah, that's right, it's daylight savings time. How do you remember it? Everybody does that thing where they remember it, and and people go spring forward, fall back, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember it by oh shit and oh good. That's it. Fuck, I'm late. Actually, I'm early. Like, I don't have to leave right now. That's what it was. Like a half a year, I'm like, oh shit. And the other half of the year, I'm like, all right, we got time. We're good. Unless you're in Arizona, and then it was that I wrote that bit in Tempe because I was like, what the nerve of Arizona to think they cannot participate in time with the rest of us. Like, that's amazing.
Oh, Indiana doesn't either. Big chunks of it.
Thank you, Darren, for the super chat. Yes. Appreciate the support, guys. And Wes, again, man. It just and I feel like Wes just wants us to give that to Hal Vickery. Like a refund. It's almost like because he's got or maybe that's just applause for Hal Vickery, or is it just the sound wave coming off of him? Something like that. I think
it's a big hug.
Flora. Yeah, I agree. That would be good. Who is the representative Hal is talking about sparring with Jim Jordan?
60 seconds.
Thank you. Sorry. Can't remember. I'll see if I can bring up a picture of her. You'll know exactly who I am. Okay.
Uh-oh. She may not be down with us.
Uh-oh.
Can I talk you into it? That's a big no. All right.
Ouch.
No.
Ouch.
Yeah. How about no? No. But sometimes, watch this. Come on. She'll jump onto my lap like a steeplechase.
Will she?
Are you gonna do it? Yeah, it's ridiculous. She's got like 8 inches to cover, and
10 seconds.
Oh God. Hurry, Flora.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Here she is. I'm going to show our new.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, I'm showing this on the live stream for those of you that aren't in the know. But Stacey Plaskett is.
There you go.
There she is. You'll recognize her. She's a rising star. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. She's from the Virgin Islands, the ironically named Virgin Islands. And she, I've been there. But her on like committees.
Is that where Red Beach is from?
Don't talk behind. Don't do BTS in front of everybody. Simmer. She is I'm just saying. Her work as the ranking member on this weaponization committee is both. How do I put this? It is both equal parts complete competency and hilarity combined. And that, especially in contrast to the flailing garbage that passes for governing that is going on with the House GOP right now, it just makes it stand in even more stark relief.
She lets just the right amount of attitude through. Mm-hmm. Like there's this underlying "how dare you insult all of us."
Yeah.
As she asks her questions.
Right. It's and here's the thing: the reason it works is because she's right. She's not doing this. She like Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan will take it personally. They will snowflake the hell out of these meetings and feel like our witnesses are being attacked because their lack of ethics is being called into question as part of the opening statements. Right?
Their lack of ethics is being called into question.
Right.
Like,
I
can't believe they're calling out these people on the fact that they have no moral standing.
Right, exactly. How dare they, And the pearl clutching going on from Gaetz and Jordan and the dude from Alabama that's one of the, he's their like middle manager who's trying to give them some, he looks like a stable, normal person, but he has the same stupid questions that Matt Gaetz does, except he doesn't have kind of like that smarm accent, which I don't know where that comes from. What part of the country is the kind of like, exactly, I don't know that, excuse me, that kind of weird Matt Gaetz accent thing that he does that's not the panhandle where he's from. Maybe it's just what happens when you grow up a second-generation politician in an area where your rich dad kind of owns the place, and you live
and you're motivated just by like teenage 80s villains from rom-coms.
Right, exactly. And you pluck your eyebrows to make sure that they, conform to that, to cartoon versions of that. Perhaps, allegedly. But I maybe that's affluenza. Maybe that's one of the effects of affluenza. Maybe you get
forgot about affluenza. That was
right,
amazing.
Maybe, it's maybe affluenza. And somebody popped into the chat right there. It's affluenza. Like right as we were saying that. It's great.
Nice.
It's called privilege. I don't know, because I know a lot of privileged people who have lived with privilege in their life, like the dude who was the heir to the Baskin-Robbins fortune, who became a vegan and gave away all the money because he didn't like how cows are treated when milk and ice cream are made. Like that guy.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you compare that guy.
That guy is walking the walk.
Yes, exactly. Compare that to Tucker Carlson, who lived in total privilege. And one of the privileges that Tucker Carlson had, which is my favorite, I love one of my favorite.
About it.
Tucker Carlson's privilege is that he had the privilege of at one point, and I don't know if you know this, Johnny Million, of calling Hunter Biden and asking for help getting his kid into a private school where he needed a recommendation from a dude that he has nonstop called a crackhead traitor.
Yeah.
That's privilege right there. When you have the privilege of calling a crackhead traitor personally, and asking that crackhead traitor, apparently, to help your kid get into a private school. That's amazing. Can we just revel in how absurd that is for a second?
Yeah.
So I think maybe there's a oxygen cutoff to the brain aspect of affluenza that affected Matt Gaetz and gave him that accent. We'll just go with that as part of it.
I did see one comment saying that it was like a prep boy accent.
Oh, totally. Yes.
Yeah.
And like
he
does
when Philip
that.
Seymour Hoffman debuted, and he was always like the jerky guy in his early movies. Was it
Twister?
like Good Will Hunting?
Yeah. Yes. I'm kidding, because in Twister, he's like the most down-to-earth human being. He's like totally alive on screen.
Twister.
And he's just so personal in that. He's the only person alive in that whole movie. Everybody's doing a good job acting. And he's being a great job being.
He's reacting.
Twister. Yes, he is. He's present. And it's beautiful to watch. And just him saying the word food it's art. Just watch him.
Lisa hasn't seen Twister yet, so I think I need
you gotta introduce her.
I got to show Lisa Jurassic Park for the first time a few months ago.
Wow, did she stand up in the Jeep like at the drive-in and lower her glasses when
Exactly. What was funny is that she played catch up with every meme that has come out of that movie.
Right.
She's like,
now she gets it.
That's where that comes from. Like every
Right.
Jeff Goldblum line.
Right. Yeah. Him shirtless. Gigantic. The big pile of poop. His laugh that he does
All
at
the
one
chaos
point.
theory stuff.
Yeah. That's chaos theory.
Life
that's good.
finds a way.
Finds a way. Now you package it. Now you want to package it. Anyways, you sell it. So, a great lesson in Science Gone Too Far, without, by the way, venturing into 1950s science panic, which everybody thinks everything's new. I love when people. This is a side note, and we got to take a break in a minute, but. Johnny Million, one of my things is when new people introduce themselves to new concepts that have been around and around and around during our lifetime so many times that they think they've invented the question and invented the solution that already showed up.
They used to do like David Letterman's shtick. He'd be like, "Oh, what's this new thing they got?" And then he'd just like fill in the blank with something that everybody knows.
That's coming back again. We'll see a lot of that in a new study stories. When, with like, butter's great for you, butter's terrible. Butter's great, butter's terrible. Eggs are great, eggs are terrible. Chocolate, chocolate, eggs are terrible. Eggs with chocolate on them are great. Like it's just this random yo-yo of information. Anyways,
I love butter, by the way. I just need to put that out there. I love butter.
I'll send you a video that I saw a while back. It's called "Butter Makes Your Pants Fall Off." It's
okay.
You'll enjoy it.
I'm
anyways,
willing to take that chance.
Yes, you are. I'm and I think it's a terrible idea for an OnlyFans, but it's probably a big moneymaker.
But it might be okay for my Twitch.
Now what I was going to talk about has to wait until after the break. We'll be back right after this.
Damn it.
It's the Hal Sparks Radio program. Darn you, butter. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Ron Filipowski will be on my morning show on Monday, and Philip Bittner's going to be in the second hour today. We'll be back right after this.
Bob Carmody commented, "I refuse to believe it's not butter."
It's and by the way, Darren, thank you so much. There it is. Yeah, it showed up in the thing, but I didn't get
with butter. Yeah.
I gotta say, I was not expecting, because I've had skin issues my whole life, like allergic reactions to stuff. Mm-hmm. Detergents usually do it. During Queer as Folk, it got really bad.
Where does it manifest?
On my
armpits?
No, on the insides of my elbows.
Yeah.
The skin gets red and it's like weepy rashes. It's gross. It's really gross.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah, during that show, multiple times we had to start eliminating, how they did because they would just wash all the clothes together and stuff like that. But I was really sensitive to that stuff, and so
wait, I'm sorry. Which show is this?
Queer as Folk.
Okay.
60 seconds.
Yeah. So. The show where I was nude a lot and my skin mattered. So thank you.
Oh,
yeah. Right. So we had to do that all the time to make sure that because it was bad. And I just
skin
decided
always matters to me. Just for the record.
Quit it. How's my hair though? Like so many people have like your hair, and I was like, yeah, it's been.
People say that to me too, except it sounds way sadder when they say it. They're like, your hair.
I don't know. It's a look. I'm for it. I love you.
Thank you.
But yeah. So anyways, I tried it as an elimination diet because I'm like, okay, I'll start reintroducing things.
10 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank
you. I feel so good. I don't know what I'm going to reintroduce. I don't care.
Yeah, apparently, if you want to see how new, just watch Queer as Folk.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
But during the breaks, we talk about me being naked. Thanks, Johnny Million. It's a good conversation.
And weeping sores.
It's a yes, and weeping sores. Right, it's a sight to see. Right. weeping rashes technically was what came up as a conversation. Yeah, so I think there's an important distinction there. I mean, come on, you know what I mean? Now I'm having like LA Story flashbacks. You know.
Oh wow.
When he couldn't get a reservation at Lidio, and he decides to take her to Palm Springs instead. You know, I went down to Lidio, and I went to look around, and the chef had this big open sore on his lip. Yeah, I know. So, because they had to like look at his credit history to get a reservation. It's so LA. It still is, by the way, and it's becoming more so. I would like to say that, you know, one of the ways that you guarantee that waves come back around is to overdo it on trendages that exist in the current day, whatever the current thing is. If you double dip and just go all in, like, this is it, life is forever changed. The best example I can give is no one's gonna get together in a big group ever again, and our handshakes are over. Remember that when?
Yep.
Remember in the like maybe August of 2020. That was when I recognized seeing that sort of handshakes are done. Handcakes are delicious. They're a little hot to make, but whatever. You'll burn your hand in the oven. But handshakes are done. Nobody's ever going to shake hands again because they're nasty and gross, and nobody else. We're all going to be Howie Mandel from now on. We're all Roseanne Barr. You know, we're all.
Isn't Howie Mandel not even Howie Mandel anymore? Didn't he get over it?
Do you stop doing it? You mean?
Yeah. I think some of his OCD has chilled. I think he saw a therapist.
I hope so. That's a beautiful
that's
thing.
That's an exhausting way to live.
Oh my God! Because and it's also dangerous because the world is full of germs that you have to integrate with. You cannot avoid them. So to some degree, and I think that's one of the lessons of the measured approach about COVID that we had. You know, that's why you're cautious. But you also have to manage your expectations and your safety levels because you can overcorrect and be damaging. And what we're having right now is this, like, the polar sides of a conversation, ping-ponging reality as if it can land on either side when you're crunching, aren't you? You're trying not to. While I was talking, he slipped one of those. Go ahead. There it is. Get it out of the way. That's good. You have thick cheeks, my friend. I've often heard that said about you. So the drink of water was louder. Okay, so a couple of things. One was that, you know, at a certain point, you would think, much like the panic attack around the committees that the Republicans were going to do, the tooth grind, the freak out that was happening, that, you know, amongst my my liberal and progressive friends who were like, oh no work will get done. They will destroy the country because they will torment poor Hunter Biden and bring him before the committee and tell terrible tales and this will look terrible, but they'll be full of lies and they'll convince a bunch of people that weren't already convinced that Joe Biden, you know, is not really president and Trump still is. And then there'll be a January 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. And that was the big, you know, screaming fit that happened right afterwards in its own various forms. And I said at the time that they're going to wreck themselves before they check themselves, as it were. And that is exactly what is happening. The same thing is true of a couple of stories that came out this week. One is the bank runs. Did you hear about the Silicon Valley Bank, Johnny Million? Have you heard any of that?
No.
Exactly. Well, that's because it's not as big as people who want it to be big think it is. Silicon Valley Bank is basically shutting down as a bank. There was investors who had their money in it started pulling their money out by the millions because of mismanagement by the people who were, you know, loaning out the money and the like. And the idea was that I literally saw YouTube videos, right-wing YouTube videos, blaming Joe Biden for bank runs in the United States economy. So this is it. This is the bellwether. This is the day. It all comes crumbling down because of the policies of Joe Biden. Now, what policies would those be, Johnny Million, that would bring down a bank like the Silicon Valley Bank? It's certainly not the CHIPS Act, I guess. right? If the Biden administration is hell bent on opening up 9 new chip manufacturing plants and building technology here at home, clearly there's not an attack from Washington on the Silicon Valley Bank. What aligned with the digital world has had a major collapse in the last 12 months that made headlines and anything, Johnny? Do you remember the big technological? I guess that's that fair point. But financial, FTX, the big crypto scam that went down.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And they love themselves some 3-letter, FTX and SVB and MLS, whatever the guy's name was, the guy who ran FTX. Yeah, LMNOP. The crypto crash, exactly. Bitcoin is below 20K. It was headed, they were like, crypto to the moon. Bitcoin's going to be worth $1 million one day. That was the story. And not just going to be any day now. Somebody was going to wake up, some big whale was going to wake up and realize this is the future, put all their money in crypto, and then they were just going to ride the wave. They were just going to let it pull them like Rudolph into the sunset, right? And not so much. Obviously, regulation and management of a currency is a good idea, lest criminals and ne'er-do-wells run off with your nest egg. And in the case of Bitcoin, the primary use of Bitcoin, besides a place to park money, while it, I guess, grows magically, is the theory, by a bunch of, the sort of crypto crowd on Twitter and the like, which, by the way, was part of the big kind of like psychological dosing of, of financial LSD that Elon Musk was on when he dreamt up buying Twitter. Because the idea is that Twitter would be his place, which he would turn long-term into a marketplace where, like FTX, you would not buy and sell things on Twitter using U.S. currency or any other currency. You would buy a crypto. You would buy stuff based on that crypto. Then you would have to sell that crypto to get your money out of it. And so the idea was it would be the reserve currency. Dogecoin, which was, if you'll recall, the pump and dump scheme that Elon Musk was engaged in of the cryptos. He was convinced that this was, Doge to the moon.
That makes me queasy.
Yeah, it's stupid. So, but he was going to make Doge the reserve currency of Twitter for all the financial interactions that happen on Twitter. And there's an argument that his, subscribers who subscribe to Twitter Blue or get verified or put money into Twitter for any of the services that they're going to offer in the future, he very well may be doing that at some point without your permission. Effectively turning you click the terms of service, and in one of the paragraphs is, hey, when you buy something on Twitter, you pay $8. You're not really paying $8 for this. You're paying $8 to buy some Doge, and then the Doge is actually what finances your membership. And and at some point you're going to need to give them notice you want to cancel, for example, like you'll have to pay for an extra month. And in that, you'll get paid in Doge. And if it's gone up, you'll make some money. If it's gone down, you'll lose some money. But he'll make money no matter where it goes because it's effectively his driver currency. That was kind of the idea. And he was high on that idea at the beginning of Buy Twitter, right? And that's why he was convincing Saudis and other people to buy into this scheme because they were looking at the exact same thing. And they're in the Bitcoin business on a big front because I would argue there are 3 main audiences for cryptocurrencies: arms dealers, drug dealers, and human traffickers. That is your root audience of crypto.
And why is that, Hal?
Because I guess those would be the 3 biggest constant transactions you would want to hide from law enforcement and the populace in general. Now, there is an underlying small buttery layer of individuals who look at crypto and say, I'm a youth pastor in Utah. It would be bad if people knew that I was paying for a Pornhub subscription because it showed up on my credit card. So wouldn't it be nice if I could moralize while hiding my immoral behavior behind a paywall?
Sure.
And that was the part that dragged a lot of people in. And this idea that governments can't control what you're going to, buy and sell really is about criminal activity or immoral activity that will get you busted. If people knew you were paying for this, or they one time you get sued, or you get, you go through a custody battle, or you go through some sort of financial thing, you could declare bankruptcy at some point, and they go through your financial records and they're like, these are a lot of weird transactions to this, this like Cash App from this esthetician lady who works out of a hotel room, like whatever. That kind of stuff attracts the Matt Gaetzes of the world to crypto. And that's why they clamor around it. It is one of the reasons why FTS, or whatever his name was, the guy who, Brian Bankman-Sneed, whatever, he was the guy who's going to jail, why he was donating to Democrats but not to Republicans. Because the Republicans were already on board. No one in the crypto space needed to lobby Republicans because they already understood the appeal. They already, I can
they're already
do my
on board. They're like, that's how I hide my money.
That's right. I could do my Christian conservative thing, and then I can buy and sell, I can pay, for my shenanigans, whatever they are, in Bitcoin, and nobody's the wiser. I'll use WhatsApp to coordinate it, and I'll use Bitcoin to pay for it. Junior and Jared and all that crowd were using WhatsApp for the exact same reason. Bitcoin is the WhatsApp of financial transactions. The idea is untraceable. Well, what happened? Turned out that it's not untraceable, that it sits in these exchanges for a few minutes, even though it's credited to your account. It sits in this exchange before it's dumped over. And law enforcement all over the world has been able to kind of snatch back funds from fraudsters and ransomware groups and all that kind of stuff. The Biden administration put together their ransomware group, and they just snatched Bitcoin out of these guys' accounts. And suddenly, all these folks woke up to the ideas that, hey, maybe this isn't so secret. Maybe I was, buying the safety aspect of this too much. And that's when it started to go down. Once it started to go down, all the financial systems based on the optimism of the future of this started to collapse with it. All these rich, these guys who were like, have fun being poor to everybody on Twitter, started just losing their houses, losing their cars, getting in trouble, not having the money to pay off the cops and the people that you were doing to just kind of bribe people because you had this extra cash. It was floating around like Wolf of Wall Street, and Andrew Tate ends up not being able to, shovel bits of cash to these Romanian cops that he was buying off so they wouldn't recognize that he was doing a human trafficking endeavor in his apartment building that he owned a floor of, or whatever the system he had going on there. And that money dries up, and suddenly your bribes dry up, and then they start coming for you. There is a huge tie between the collapse of crypto and Silicon Valley Bank, because a lot of that, dive in, we're going to pay for this, we're going to make so much money on these apps that float crypto, that are, this is going to be a whole substructure of financial stuff that's going on beyond the dollar, beyond the yuan, beyond the yen, the rupee and the ruble, and will be our own kind of space currency. Peter Thiel was all in on this. All the people who were behind PayPal, all of them had millions in SVB, in the Silicon Valley Bank. And they all pulled it out in a big hurry because the people at the top of that were mismanaging it. Well, how were they mismanaging it? One of the ways they were doing it, they were going, oh my God, look how much money you can make in crypto. It's going to the moon. And then it collapsed. Oh. And they couldn't pay stuff back. And then they freaked out. And then they sold their stock because they knew it was coming. And then people around them on the uppers knew that they were selling their stock, and they got their money out. And then the suckers were left holding the bag.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. This is not about monetary policy. This is not to do with the U.S. dollar. This has nothing to do with inflation or the rise of interest rates and mortgage loans or anything. This is fallout from the crypto delusion. And it won't be the last. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. I mean, there's dumb, and then there's just fucking dumb. Like, you know, the best description I've heard of crypto is that it is a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the truth.
I'm afraid they're gonna find the problem.
Well, no. I would argue that they already have, but they recognize most of these idiots don't participate in the problem enough directly. Drug sales, arms sales, and human trafficking. And they're not going to, thank God, because I don't think most of them would, right? Most of them just are like, they want to pay for, you know, stuff under the table that they want to keep off the books, and stuff that if people in their family or their circle of friends found out about, you know, their Grindr subscription or their Tinder subscription or their Ashley Madison subscription or their Pornhub subscription, and they want to keep that off the books, and they want another way of paying for that stuff that's relatively untraceable without a machine at a mall where you can go up and like thank you, and it's got a visor around it. By the way, that's coming. I just want you to know that there will be an erasable system where you can go up and pay for things in cash in secret, like a reverse ATM.
Oh, wow.
You can go and you just program in what's your account number, you put the money in there.
This is Amy Purdue of Think Theory Radio,
and then it
Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I thought there was going to be like a new one every break. I was so excited.
You want more, Hal? We'll give you more.
Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. Hoo-yah!
I hope that clarified some of the stories that's coming up, and you're going to see a rolling effect of that over the next little bit, and keep an eye out for it. The other thing, too, is that egg prices are expected to drop 30% in the next, I've seen next year, but next...
I just bought a dozen
4
eggs
months.
for $2.33 on Sunday.
Yeah, I just bought 18 eggs in one of those big row things, you know, because I eat them, I drink them raw, you know that, because my girlfriend's a big
Just like
Rocky fan.
Sylvester Stallone.
Well, no. I don't let it run down my face, wipe my mouth like this, put the glass back up on the top of the fridge, and then go running. Because, like, all I can think of.
Then that would just be that's more than a tribute.
Well, I would also say that my Summer would kill me if there's a nasty egg glass sitting on top of the. My girlfriend would go like, "What is that? It's a crusty egg glass sitting on top of."
I could smell that from the hallway.
Yes. And by the way, for the most part, if they're fresh, eggs, when you drink them like that, have no flavor whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I'll put a little dash of salt in there, and it's easy going. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. Yeah. If they have a lot of flavor to them, you probably should have just cooked them a couple days ago. But if they're fresh, anyways, it was like $8 for 18 eggs, and these were like the fancy schmancy eggs, the organic, you know, like Happy Acres, you know, where they got this like, you know, this chicken on the front of it going, "Please eat my children." You know, and it's like the old Carlin thing. Why is it when it's us, it's an abortion, and when it's a chicken, it's an omelet? That was the like, but yeah, the other thing I noticed, and you'll notice probably if you go to the store a lot, is that there might have been like a big gap in the egg aisle. Like, do you notice that there were very few eggs for a while, and now it's starting to fill up like crazy? And eggs, I don't know if you know this, Johnny Million, spoil. It's one of the things you can find out the hard way. Yeah. And so once they start moving, eggs, you know, interestingly enough, financially speaking, and why they're a commodity of such measure, and the consumption of them is so high, is that eggs are a lot like oil in terms of once you turn the spigot on, turning it off is near impossible, and you don't have a lot of secondary options. You can't, you know, oil doesn't spoil, obviously, but if you stop the pipeline...
I like that.
Thanks.
I'm Hal Sparks.
Oil doesn't spoil. Right, because, well, it's pre-spoiled, I guess. But anyways, if you try to, you know, if you throttle the output of an oil well, it can get backed up, it can start gumming up, and then it becomes, you have to re-drill it altogether. It's terrible. And so that's why Russia's having so much trouble. When they shut down, when they say we're not producing 650,000 barrels of oil, which, by the way, if you'll notice, they did that already. It's March. They did that at the beginning of March. Has not affected the price of oil worldwide at all. If anything, it's gone down. It's fluctuating around the 78 to 72 zone, which is a sweet spot for companies and a sweet spot for consumers. Apparently, it'll continue to go down, but if they're throttling that, I think because they don't have the capacity they say they have. It's like the Saudis. Yeah. The Saudis are actually oil poor. One of the reasons why, and we'll talk about the Iranian Saudi-China broker deal, which, by the way, the Iraqis brokered. Does anybody know that? Did you hear about the Iran-Saudi Arabia deal that China supposedly brokered? It was kind of in the news yesterday, and everybody's like, look at China, the big peacemaker in the world. Finally, Iran and Saudi Arabia, after all these years coming together. Well, they're just going back to the standard they had when Trump took office, which was in 2016. They're just going back to having embassies and ambassadors' offices. Whether they'll have ambassadors in the country or not is another thing. The Iranians gave no promise that they would stop their Yemeni proxies, the Houthis, from attacking Saudi Arabia in this deal. So it's effectively PR.
And that actually goes back to the hearings that you were talking about, because a lot of the smoking guns that the Republicans think they have occurred during the Trump administration.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The breakup of, the lack of those ambassadorships happened right when Trump was elected, because they were like, okay, it's going to be, Trump's going to be hell on everybody, and he's going to like the Saudis more, which he absolutely did. The Iranians were aware of the fact that Trump was playing favorites.
The globe hugging picture? Was that?
Oh, yeah, the big, the big Illuminati picture, which they completely lost on. If you were coming up with a conspiracy theory that was just lunacy, there's no better than just world leaders with their hands on a glowing orb.
Oh my God, it
right?
Itself.
Can you imagine?
It's if you brought that to Hollywood, they'd be like, "Yeah, I don't think so."
You imagine Obama and whatever MBS and some other leader touching this glowing orange sun-like object in the room, or all they ate from the same stem of grapes. They're like, I knew it, much less laying on hands like this giant round Ouija board moment. It's so odd. Anyways, the hypocrisy of conspiratorial stuff. Look at the number of times Trump makes the little Illuminati hand gesture that apparently when Obama did it was a sign that he was worshiping Baphomet. But when Trump does it, he's just nervous and doesn't know what to do with his hands, whatever. Anyways,
got a pretty good troll in the chat.
Well, that's good. I imagine that comes up, and it's good because we like trolls because they help us in the algorithm in ways that other people do.
That's right. Thank you, Bryce.
I appreciate it. It bumps us up. We will show up in there. People who watched what he watched or she watched. Also, I'm going to go with she, Bryce. Yeah. Bryce Douglas Howard or whatever isn't there somebody in
Oh, yeah, Bryce Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go with it's a woman. And just for if I'm misgendering you, you don't think that's a thing anyway. So we're fine. Anyway, right. So, right.
If I'm misgendering you, come at me, bro.
Yeah, right. But yeah, in the algorithm, you never complain about trolls because we will show up in there. People who watch what they watch also watched this, and then I show up and they're like, "What the hell?" Where were we? Oh yes. So beyond that deal, the Iran, Saudi Arabia, China broker deal. As Biden would say, "Good luck in your senior year." There was an article in Bloomberg where it literally ended with, "Good luck with that." They literally just said it at the end. There is no measurable difference. They're just going back to where they were in 2016. There are a lot of those things where people are like, aha, this is the turning point. And I would like to remind everybody, be wary of the threat of revolution everywhere. Because as much as our hyper-left friends and our radical right run up the steps and stomp a cop maggots will be upset at this. Revolutions do not, most of the time, result in positive changes. They, unless because the revolution, for example, the U.S. Revolution, where we fought and got our separation from England. The revolution in America was not the war itself. The revolution was the thought form that we can govern ourselves. Taxation with representation, democracy, a constitutional republic based on common rights, and rights that are not based on some sort of magic family saying we're the God family, we live in the castle, and we'll tell you what's good. It was that was the revolution in America. The war was fought to keep the revolution from being stopped. And a lot of people will think of sort of the big explosive part of as the revolution part, and it ain't. And as a matter of fact, if you fight a physical revolution on a battlefield you're already winning, you can get blowback and turn the tide of humanity against you. And there are myriad examples in history. So I would warn people off that. This is sort of a side note again. That said, Philip Bittner's going to be joining us in the next hour to talk about Ukraine and the fact that Russia, in their war of choice right now, apparently we're going to take Bakhmut. Here it was. They're going to take it any second now. They're going to take it or whatever. And then the Wagner Group just decided to do an operational pause. Coincidentally, after they stopped being supplied with ammunition by the Russian leaders because Prigozhin complained about not getting enough ammunition, and now they're hunting each other.
All right, there's something happening in the chat where they think that you need a pet rooster.
I do. I am a rooster in the Chinese lore, right? I mean, so are you, I think.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah, yep. So, anyways, we got plenty of rooster going around here.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not using the other word. We'll get bumped off the air. We'll be back.
Come at me, rooster.
What do you do? We'll be back right after this. It's catchy. It's catchy.
So when are we getting you on my Twitch thing there, Hallie boy?
I'm ready, man. Let's do this. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Yeah, it's like it's too quiet. I have to plug this one in. It's not my other acoustic is louder. Obviously, that's my studio plug-in acoustic. Oh, there's Phil. I see him. He's down there. There he is. He's coming in. Hold on. I'll copy this and put him in and we'll be ready to go in a moment. Philip, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Sounds great. Sounds good. All right, let's open this up and open this guy. Blink. Hold on. And then I'll go to here and then there. And oh, sorry. There we go.
I played Freebird on my Twitch.
Nice. By request, I hope?
Yeah, by request, and it was exhausting.
Yeah, it is. I've been doing it. That's partly where my new calluses are coming from, because I was like, I'm like going to join the solo out at the end, I think, a little bit, to jam it out. Yeah. It's hard not to, like, fall down to, like, after you're, like, been picking so fast, to just not just go into tapping just to save your wrist. Yeah. But it's fun, too, because I don't think anybody expects me to do any tapping, so that's nice. And they're like,
I expect you to do tapping.
Thank you, but you would. You would, like, because that's cheating to you. That's the easy way. All right, here we go. Hold on, I'm going to bring in Phil.
You know,
there we
I
go.
always say that tapping is cheating, but I don't think it is.
No.
I think it's cheating because I'm good at it.
Right. Yes. If you're not good at it, and by the way, I still my key tapping that I can do just like from muscle memory without even looking at the fretboard is yours from Fruit Salad in high school.
Oh yeah, Fruit Salad.
We did like an instrumental in our high school band, and that Johnny would solo over, and it was great. And it was like just 3 chords, but it was I think it was Andy Myers. And yeah, Andy, we were at something and somebody said "Yay for our side" at a school thing, and they thought he thought they said "Yay fruit salad" because it was a big crowd of people, and nobody could figure out what the hell that meant. why are you yelling yay fruit salad? And like, I yelled yay for our side. And they're like, oh, that didn't sound anything like that. And so
And
it
then
became.
at the end, when we played the instrumental ones, Jeff Cohen yelled that.
Yep. Yeah. It said yay fruit salad.
He
and
said
that was
yay fruit salad.
Yep. And then that was the name of the song. History.
I've got some old size McGrath cassettes.
Oh, I hope so. Because we'll feed them into AI and make them sound like they were at Madison Square Garden. It'll be great. Instead of Mike Soretsky's basement. Well, is basement really a word? I've always had that issue. If it opens onto a lower yard. Yeah, it was. But it was like, if it opens, is it a basement?
It opens to the backyard, yeah.
Yeah. If it opens to the backyard, it's not a basement because it's not the base of the house.
It's like a weird split level thing going on.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, would you like a pretzel?
Oh, that's just mean.
A what? A pretzel?
A pretzel, right?
Yeah, they're full of peanut butter.
He's in a different place. Where are you, Phil?
I'll pass. I am in a town called Slovyansk. I am in Donetsk.
Okay. Wow.
I am about 20 kilometers from Bakhmut.
Wow.
And went up to the front lines today. Got about 5 miles away from Bakhmut, and got right up to the front lines. So
we'll save it for the air because we're all very interested in that part of the So because I'll
got about 5 kilometers from Bakhmut.
Wow. Okay.
Would be my guess.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's yelling, "Stay safe! Stay safe!" Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people are complaining that Phil is too loud.
Okay. It's interesting because I like
too loud.
You're good. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it here.
We are back in 20.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You sound good. Check for me,
Thank
Phil.
you, Chicago. Check. 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Cool. I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for sticking in with us every Saturday. Joining us right now is Philip Ittner, who is pretty. How far are you? 20 kilometers from Bakhmut?
About 20
right
kilometers from the front lines in Bakhmut. Yeah, in a town called Slovyansk.
Yeah, and Johnny Million is still with us. He's going to be farming questions from the chat group at twitch.tv/HalSparks. And then, of course, infotainmentwars.com and from our Facebook page for Philip while he's there. But that in and of itself is a big piece of information, just the fact that you're as close as you are to Bakhmut. So give us the update from your, how'd you end up heading there right now? What's going on?
I drove out yesterday. It's about an 8-hour drive, give or take, from Kiev. Yeah, about 8 hours. And got into Donbass, got to Slovyansk, checked into our hotel, and then this morning woke up pretty early in the morning and drove as close as we could get to the front lines. We got to a town called Chasiv Yar. Chasiv Yar is about 5 kilometers away from the front line, so we could hear the small arms fire. We had incoming artillery rounds. We had outgoing Ukrainian artillery rounds, which it has to be mentioned, vastly outnumbered the incoming. So the Ukrainians were firing a lot more at the Russians with artillery than the Russians were able to respond. And we do know that there's an ammunition issue on both sides of the equation. But from today's anecdotal evidence, it seems the Russians are suffering from a lack of artillery rounds far more than the Ukrainians are. We saw a lot of armor. We saw a lot of top of the line Ukrainian soldiers, combat experienced veteran soldiers. I would say they're top 10% of their military was. We saw a couple of different units from a couple of different companies and regiments and what have you, divisions, and the overall atmosphere was there was no panic, there was no anxiety, there was no undue stress. It
just does
stress. Seem as though they are prepared.
Right.
Undue stress. I mean, there was they're in a war zone and shells are coming in, so there's that, but there was no sense of like panic or it certainly wasn't any kind of rout or uncontrolled retreat. They were setting up defensive lines. So even if Bakhmut, I contend, having seen what I saw today, is even if Bakhmut falls, it will not be a breakout. It will not. The Russians will not break out of Bakhmut and come flooding west. Certainly. Now there are routes going north and south as well, and Chasiv Yar is the next town after Bakhmut on the roadway heading west. So the Russians will have to go through Chasiv Yar next, and it's taken them months to go through Bakhmut. So setting up defensive lines in Chasiv Yar just means that they break out of Bakhmut and they go 5 kilometers, and then they run into another wall of Ukrainians, and there will be more dead Russians. Rinse and repeat, exactly.
Yeah.
They were well fed. They're getting paid on time. There was no bad. I mean, they were a little kind of, oh God, here comes the journalists. So we're going to get pestered by journalists. That was the most negative emotion I ran into today.
Right.
It's now, having said that, the citizens of this town, Chasiv Yar, we saw at least 2 families that were getting out of town because they were like, if the war comes here next, we don't want anything to do with it, and we're already starting to get shelled more than we used to, so we're out of here. I got in the, I'd say 3 hours we were in the area, 2 to 3 hours we were in the area. We got 2 incoming rounds from the Russian side of things. The outgoing rounds coming from our Ukrainian artillery was almost constant. It was every 3, 4, 5 minutes a round we'd hear a round go out. So the Ukrainians are pelting the Russians, and the Russians are not responding, at least not in that town. And it's an important town because it's the staging area for Bakhmut. It's now becoming a defensive position. So it would be a viable target for the Russians. And we didn't get hardly anything. We heard a lot of small arms fire. We saw some tanks maneuvering around. We saw lots of infantry fighting vehicles. The town is deeply damaged. There's been clearly some heavy shelling, but it's good to get up to the front and get a taste of things and see what the atmosphere is like, because otherwise there's no substitute for actually being on the line, which is why I continue to have my issues with those who just regurgitate Kremlin talking points, because as I say, there's just no substitute for physically being here and talking to people and knowing what's happening here, because otherwise you're subject to somebody else's narrative and you're just regurgitating stuff. So
well, it's like an evil version of telephone where no matter what's said on the other end of the line, you've already made up your mind what they said, which is, that's effectively what the Tankies and the Ritters of the world are actually doing. They've already decided that whatever news comes down the line means Russia's winning. And and that's that. The Guardian is reporting from just 11 hours ago about I'm not quite sure what the timing is of that. Bakhmut has become, quote, a killing zone, and that one of the things about the operational pause of the Wagner Group, which again highly debatable the meaning behind that, and there's no way of really knowing, and there's so much mucky stuff between them and the Russian government right now that it could be a myriad of things. But the idea that they would pause as this was happening when they were supposedly right on the brink of taking the place is really curious. But that they're just
that's another thing, and that's another thing I learned from talking to Ukrainian soldiers today is that they were eyewitnesses, and so yes, I am one step removed, but these Ukrainian soldiers were telling us that they're slaughtering Russians. They're just slaughtering them.
Yeah.
And whether or not that's Wagner guys, it's probably was Wagner guys. That they're just disproportionately, the casualties are on the Russian side, not on the Ukrainian side. You know, they have decided that Bakhmut is the place they want to take, and while the Ukrainians may start some sort of strategic retreat, you know, withdrawal, I don't want to say retreat, but essentially a retreat, to this secondary line of defense in this town I was in today. They're going to make the Russians pay for it with every inch they're making them pay for it, and it's as many people as the Russians have, and they have hundreds of thousands of people that they can call up. It's not, it's not limitless, and there's going to come a time when either they really do run out of people or public opinion turns against them. But from what I was hearing from Ukrainian soldiers out on the front lines today, who were not in any way, they weren't scared. They weren't running. They were preparing to kill more Russians.
Right.
And the attitude was, if the Russians want to come here and die, we will afford them that opportunity.
Oblige
we will happily oblige
him.
them.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things that have happened. And by the way, in the next, when we take a break in a minute, when we come back, we're going to take some questions since we already have some for you. And because you're so close to the front lines currently, I'm sure that will populate even more questions during the break. But a couple of funny things that have happened during this that we might consider is that Russia declared the World Wildlife Fund a foreign agent yesterday. Because they're, they targets go, they sure can pick them. And at this point, Russia's apparently hit, up to date, has hit Ukraine with 40,500 plus or minus missiles. And the strike ratio is shockingly low for a country that overwhelms supposedly the country that they're attacking. And so the missile defense aspect of this, even though it was, it dragged a little bit last year, it seemed to show up right about the time Russia was shifting to, using more missiles, more long-range bombs and long-range drones that drop bombs or fire missiles. And it showed up just in time. So while there's no question that the damage to infrastructure in the West and stuff has been difficult for Ukraine, it's interesting that most of the buildings in Bakhmut and the places around there are not being hit per se by missiles, but by regular artillery, like you're talking about. And the Russians are they're begging, we know that they've been begging Belarus and to commandeer a factory to make those kind of things. The Ukrainians aren't expecting to even dip into their hard reserves until July. We got to take a break. When we come back, more with Philip Bittner and your questions at infotainmentwars.com. Jump in the chat and let us know what they are. Johnny Million will lead us through those things when we return. And by the way, Phil, the Georgia story has been, gaining steam quite a bit. Jake Sullivan met with the Georgian president.
And the Russians are pissed.
Yes.
The Russians are furious.
And they dropped the Russian foreign agent bill, the one that started it all.
That's right.
So good.
Yep. I mean, there's stuff on Russian. Julia's been doing a great job as always, but the stuff that I see coming out of Russian mass media is like, well, now we have to kill all the Georgians. Now we have to kill all the Ukrainians. We got to commit genocide in Ukraine. Now we got to commit genocide in Georgia. I mean, geez, how many of these? Yeah, how many populations do we have to destroy?
All of them. That's how that works.
Which makes you kind of go, hey, you know what? Maybe guys, look in the mirror. Maybe the problem isn't them.
It's you.
Maybe it's you.
Right.
Maybe it's you.
It's amazing.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God! They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We're going to jump right into the questions. Johnny Million's going to go through theirs, but there's a bit of breaking news in that less than 24 hours ago, people were talking about that Bakhmut was going to be seized by the Russians any time now, that it could very well fall. That 3 days ago, the NATO commander said it's a possibility that it could fall. Now, I guess one of the UN people who's overseeing it, who's been looking at it, UK Ministry of Defense actually was the one who said this, said that it's now become incredibly challenging for them, and it might have just been effectively a rope-a-dope politically to draw the Russians into thinking they could make a real hard go of it by just sending more men, and it didn't work. And that might be why the operational pause is happening. Let's go with the questions.
One other quick thing I want to say before we go into questions, though.
Sure.
When we were going to break, you were mentioning the fact that a lot more artillery was used in Bakhmut than, say, missiles or things like that. I have to stress, every time I come out into the Donbass and I get kind of into the fighting region, it's where you really see the impact of this war. There's hardly a building, hardly a street, hardly a town that has not been shelled or has been in the midst of some form of combat or another, and it's utterly heartbreaking. I'll be here for about 4 days in the region. I'll be posting photographs the entire time, so go to my Twitter feed, just simply my name, Philip with one L, Ittner with two T's, Ittner. I will be putting photographs up. I'll be posting stuff, and then ultimately I'll be doing a YouTube vlog about this. But it's the thing that always reminds me. We get shot at in Kiev, we get shot at in Lviv, Odessa, all the towns that I've been in central and western Ukraine. But when you come out here to the Donbass, you really see the devastation, and it's disgusting, and it's heartbreaking, and it makes you wonder why, what for. There is very little here. This is an impoverished part of the country. There's not a lot of resources, and yet the Russians have decided that they are going to tear this part of the country apart, and it's sad to see the devastation. So I urge people to go and take a look at the photos I'll be posting over the next couple of days.
Will do.
So questions.
All right. Yeah, what do we got, Johnny?
All right, so David Fisher has apparently asked this a few times, and I've not caught it, so I apologize for that. What do we think about sanctioning money managers of Russian oligarchs?
I mean, yeah, sure. Hit everything. Hit oligarchs' families. This is all filthy blood money. It's all of it. It's also corruption internally within Russia. This is brought to the fore so many different issues that exist when it comes to Russia and the kind of country that's been built in the post-Soviet era. Putin's Russia. It's a kleptocracy. It's brutal. It's cruel to the Russian people as well as to the neighbors and to the international community. I mean, there's filthy blood money in London, New York, and Paris. It hit their money managers. Absolutely. Hit their their offshore accounts, take their yachts, take their mansions. There's nothing, because there's no oligarch that doesn't have blood on his hands. You don't get to a position of power in Russia unless you are complicit in some way with the system that Putin has established. And that system is built on suffering, and it's built on blood and cruelty. So I am all for finding the people with the bagmen and shutting them down and taking everything they've got. Not a problem in my mind.
Also, on that, in line with that, moving them out of the SWIFT system and the other sanctions would already do that with any Western money managers that had been working with them, lest they have to shut down their business or whatnot. So a lot of those guys, their quote unquote money managers at this point are under the table criminal enterprises
and implement the Magnitsky Law wherever you possibly can.
Yes,
Bill Browder's Magnitsky Law, which punishes anybody who benefits from Putin's regime. So the Magnitsky Law, kicking them out of SWIFT, all of it. I'm all for it. No more kidding around with these people.
Right. Go ahead, Johnny. We got.
All right, so I got a question from, I've never said this one out loud, B.PE. Why don't they bring this critical equipment into the UK on the C-130Js?
I presume what you actually mean is sending it into Ukraine, not the UK. That would make a lot of sense.
Another UK.
On C-130s, I mean, the problem with sending in on C-130s is that they're fixed-wing aircraft, and they're large and they're relatively slow. So I do know that some cargo airplanes have been flying into Ukraine, but not in any vast numbers. But they're, it would be a target of opportunity. It's just, and that's not to say a great target of opportunity, but I mean, it's just a C-130, like a Berlin airlift kind of system, because that's what you'd have to do. It's just better to send it by rail. It's safer.
Right.
More reliable, and it can be done with a lot more. It can be done a lot more in secret than putting an aircraft up in the sky in Ukrainian airspace, because the Russians will see it.
Yeah. I mean, again, a lot of it also has to do with the just sheer weight of how much you can transport as well.
The C-130,
they're big.
The C-130 is a fantastic airplane. I've flown in C-130s many, many times. They're great aircraft. But the risk to reward ratio is just not worth it.
Right. There you go. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, and Johnny Million, I think we got time for a couple more. So yeah,
sure. Yeah. So Ed's 3D Tech asks, what about? Are you going to make it feel?
Yeah, I'm good.
What about JDAMs and Russian losses at about 70.3%?
Russian losses of what at 73%? Does it
Not
say
sure.
JDAM? I mean, JDAMs are, yes, yeah. Let's give the Ukrainians as many JDAMs as possible. These are kind of penetrative air attack missiles. Yes, absolutely. Give them. Look, this is kind of. It's almost the same answer that I'm giving to going after the money managers and stuff. Let's stop doing incrementalism. Let's stop half-assing this thing. If I could say that on the air. And
you may.
Let's go for it. Look, Putin's Russia is a threat to its neighbors. It's a threat to the global community. It's time that we really accept the fact that that Russia is Putin's Russia is a threat and needs to be no kid gloves. And they don't. Look, back in the day, Reagan took the stance that the only thing they understand is strength. Sadly, it's one of the things that is true. Reagan got that right. I don't agree with a lot of what Reagan did. I remember Reagan's administration, and I didn't agree with it then. I don't agree with it now. But he got that right. When it came to the Russians, they do only respond to strength, and they themselves. If you really get into a conversation with Russians, they themselves will acknowledge that they perceive that conflict and power relations are perceived very differently in Russia than they are in the Western world. And it is not just to say, because this is something that the Americans have said about Arabs. This is something that the Americans said about any enemy. Take your pick. All they understand is strength. But sadly, due to the way Russia has been created as a country and as a cultural identity, everything is zero sum. Someone wins, someone loses. And so we have to convince the Russians that they are the losers in this engagement, and that if they continue to act the way they do, both in their near abroad and globally, that they will continue to be losers. And we have to stand by that. And it's hard, but grow a bit of a spine and be a tough guy, because they won't respect anything else. So JDAMs, give them everything that they want and
By
more.
the way, you know who co-signs that. Our dear friend Malcolm Nance, who was on the show yesterday, and not only does he send his love to you, but he sends his respect as well. He said at one point, listen to everything Philip Bittner has to say. He's a good guy.
Did he really?
Yes, he did. He said Philip knows what he's talking about, and he noted that you're doing it from the sort of personal aspect of it, which is one of the things people miss when they start doing sort of the football stats aspect of a war, is the humanity that's involved in it, and what happens when you do that. One of my, and we got to take a break in about a couple minutes, so we'll have more questions from our chat after the next break. But one of the things that stuck with me is a lot of people, in the faux peace movement that did that little like pro-Russia thing in D.C. where all those folks spoke, and Kucinich and that crowd, people who I normally would respect and appreciate, but who have lost their minds. I would like to remind them that a lot of them were saying like, we need peace in this circumstance. The Ukrainians have to be brought to the table to force this peace movement forward. And I would say to them that this is precisely the I hesitate to call it left wing because I'm not quite sure where they truly stand ultimately, and that's a moniker that you have to earn. But that this is another version of fighting a war for oil. That effectively what they're saying is, in the same way that right-wingers and Trump were saying we should go into Iraq and take the oil or keep the oil, and we were going no war for oil, the faux peaceniks on that side were effectively saying we want peace in the world so much that we'll allow Russia's war. War for peace. We are, like they believe that was war for oil. This is war for peace. These people.
I understand the sentiment. Right. I understand the sentiment. Nobody likes war.
Right. What my point is that what is oil when you really talk about it? Besides the profits of companies, it lubricates society, and we all run on it. Our entire society. We want to go back to normal, and they were saying don't fight an oil just to have normalcy. Don't fight a war just to have dominance and comfort. Right. The West wants comfort and all this profit. What's the difference between that and saying let Russia have Ukraine so we can all sit back and not have to worry about a war going on? And that's effectively the same thing. They are the same as the neocons. It's just an inversion of the principle. We'll be back right after this. Chicago got loud all of a sudden. That was exciting. Man. Yeah.
Well, I think they were trying to say, "Hey, commercial break."
Get out of
here.
We really are playing music here.
What's the guy who's brooming you off? He's the guy at the Apollo. Music.
James says, "Free bird." Thank you, James. Jordan, thank you.
So, how was Malcolm? What did he?
Great.
You guys had a good conversation?
Yeah, we had some tech issues getting him on in the beginning of it, and he had a slight delay. But when he came on, we did about an hour and talked about stuff, and he was talking about like.
And you sang my praises.
He did. I brought you up because we have you on the regular, and he sang them. I didn't even prod him in that direction.
I'm flattered.
Yeah,
I'm flattered.
Yeah, we talked a bit about, we talked a bit about his unit in the in sort of the International Brigade and his work with them, and his training and what he was seeing, and how the Russians treat their dead, all the stuff they saw up front when they're right there, and how
I've got an interview I did with him, but the audio is not that red hot, so I haven't published it yet. I might just bite the bullet, or I might do a Zoom with him.
How about this? I will send you a link for a site on Futurepedia that AI's audio and fixes it.
Ooh, yes.
It's
Absolutely.
ridiculous. It works so well, it's spooky. I mean, all that like fake voice stuff that you've seen, the same technology can also clean up audio. And it's
please.
Great.
If you would send that to me after this, that'd be great, because then I'll publish that.
You got it. Let's see. The accepted figure, $1 spent on military, $3
You better
spent
say nice things about me. I've got like 3 suitcases of his in my apartment.
Yeah, I like that when I was talking to him yesterday, I was like, there are 2 thoughts I had that I was like, yeah, that's a clear version. I've been trying to articulate the base of a thought, around certain ideas for a bit. And the primary one was that Russia's, Putin's biggest problem right now is that, and his biggest fear is that Prigozhin or somebody like him or an offshoot of him that nobody's even heard of yet that just decides to punch his way to the top, because that can happen in a Skeksis society like they have, decides...
Coming back in 10 seconds.
Thank you. Looks at Ukraine and says, I could have half of that or all of that, and decides to go back to Russia and take the fucking place. The other thing is,
I know I'm only on 1 day a week. I get it. I would have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And then a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Hal Sparks. This is Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. And by the way, with 100% more Johnny Million. And Philip Ittner is joining us. Don't forget to follow him on Twitter as long as it lasts, at Philip Ittner, 1L, 2 T's. He's got vlogs coming up on his YouTube channel, which is just look up Philip Ittner on there as well, and you'll find them. And we got more questions from the chat room. I was going to jump in and talk to you about the Andromeda, the boat that allegedly left Germany and bombed the Nord Stream pipeline that Der Spiegel has tracked, but still doesn't know who was on it. And I still think it was a cover for a pig, but we'll talk about that later. Let's go with Johnny. Can you take questions with a cat in your lap, or is it?
I think I can. She will get very impatient with me quickly as soon as I start talking.
Understood.
Eric Pierkarski has a question. Do you have thoughts
Sure.
about reporting that Pakistan is preparing to ship back 44 T-80 tanks to Ukraine they purchased back in the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting story. And I'll bring into the answer to that story some of my experience when I worked in Pakistan. I worked for Voice of America for 1 year, which is a whole other story. I was hoping to get a break out of corporate media and turn to government sponsored media, or like a BBC kind of model.
Right.
That didn't work out. But anyhow, I did spend a year in Pakistan and Afghanistan as the bureau chief there. And one of the things about Pakistan you have to understand is that there are fluctuating alliances with Pakistan, because whoever India is currently allied to, Pakistan will ally itself with its enemy.
Right.
So if India, now India has a long-standing history of animosity towards China, but if India were to start receiving Chinese arms, Pakistan would go to Russia or to the United States. Pakistan is more concerned about India than anything else. That's it for them. So it's not fair to say that they have like a hatred of Russia. It's all seen through the prism of their conflict with India. So having said all that, get that out of the way. Yes, T-80s, let's have them.
Yep.
They were sold during the 90s. They're good tanks. They're tanks that I'm sure Pakistan has maintained. Some 44 of them, I think, that they're offering to send here. And those are tanks that the Ukrainians are comfortable using. They're also tanks that will fit fine into this new doctrine that the Ukrainians are training on, this combined arms doctrine, which uses all kinds of different military assets in conjunction with one another. You can slot in a T-80 as much as you can slot in a Leopard 1. So yeah, all for it. Again, let's finish this. Let's get all the weapons that we possibly can here, and let's finish this war, and let's make sure that Russia never comes back.
Never tries to do this. Yeah, never tries to do this.
Never tries to do this again. And the T-80 is a fine piece of kit. So I'm all for it. Yes, send them, Pakistan.
Also, for the record, I want to thank everybody who's super chatting during the show, because we, unlike a lot of other shows, don't make people make people super chat to get their questions heard. So in a lot of ways, the questions that are coming up, the super chatters are supporting those. So thank you guys for that. If you've got a question and you want to do the super chat at the same time, knock yourself out. But that's not our standard, and Johnny's doing a bang-up job going through them. On a side note, by the way,
as always.
Yes, Canada has stopped buying aluminum and I don't want to say tin, but they've stopped buying aluminum from Russia. And they put a 200% tariff on Russian aluminum imports in the United States. We did. And then the EU already blocked steel products last year. Canada is now not getting aluminum from. By the way, the primary source of aluminum that's used in the Chinese factories for Teslas, Russia. So, yeah, no surprise.
Unreal.
So you wonder why Elon Musk has Putin on speed dial. So let's grab another question there, Johnny.
Yeah, this kind of a request from the Jigmeyer. Please tell Phil to stop giving his locations. The Russians don't play fair.
The Russians have bigger fish to fry than me. And Sloviansk is a big area, and I'm not in Chasiv anymore. I didn't say anything about it while I was there. I'm okay. My OPSEC is just fine. But thank you for the concern.
Every time you say Chasiv Yar, I think of Drago yelling Yasib Ya in the I Fight for Me in Rocky 4. Yasib Ya! Yeah. Remember that? All right. Anyways, I can't get it out of my head. There you go. So Chasiv Ya! All right, there we go. Go, Johnny.
Fight for me.
He does.
So, Bald Thanos wants to know what Phil feels like or feels about Bobert's being a 36-year-old grandma.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I saw that. Oh, God bless those lovely
Hey, the more the merrier.
brothers.
That's right.
Yeah.
As I say.
I mean, and these are the people that think that they can make a judgment and moral high ground. Exactly.
Right.
Forget about it.
And by the way, I would like to congratulate the new grandmother on her child, her grandchild, and I think it's lovely.
Grandma Lauren.
Yep, absolutely. And
Granny
Lauren.
Lauren.
She's going to be her Bobby. We should come up with a name for her.
Bobby Bobert. Bobby Bobert. Say that 10 times quick.
Your Bobby. When you like, everybody's got a nickname for their grandma. You know.
Sure.
So she's her Bobby. We'll figure it out. Her Bobbala.
Bobby Bobert.
Mine was Warden.
Warden? Is it really?
And she ruled with an iron hand.
She did, absolutely. Every time Johnny left her house, so you had to crawl through the sewers for 2.5 hours.
I did.
Right.
I will make it on the outside.
Dressed as an accountant. Anyways, so let's grab another question before we get down a really silly...
So Guitar Goddess asks, do you think the Russians will run out of men soon?
At some point, yeah. I mean, we're not there yet. But they are... I mean, they're dying... 700 to 1,000 Russian soldiers die every day in Ukraine. That's unsustainable.
Guacamole.
Yeah, 700 to 1,000 soldiers die every single day in Ukraine, and that is unsustainable. Now, will they fully run out of men? Will they go to the last Russian male of fighting age? No, the society will collapse before that. But will they go through, 500,000 men before they finally get it into their thick skulls that they can't win here? I mean, it's happened before. They have a preponderance of losing men that we would never put up with in the West.
Right.
So I sadly think there are going to be hundreds of thousands of more Russians before this is before this is over. I don't think the casualty rates will be anywhere near that in Ukraine, but whereas the Russians will just send their soldiers off to be cannon meat, is what they call it, instead of cannon fodder. The Ukrainians will continue to train their men and try and keep them safe, and the other thing is they will pull wounded Ukrainians off the line, get them into hospitals so that they can recover, and sadly they'll go back to the line, whereas Russia is not structured that way. We've heard tons of stories of Russian soldiers, if they get wounded, just being left behind to bleed out for a variety of different reasons. So the sad part of it is a lot more Russians are going to die before this is over. A lot more Ukrainians are as well, but Ukrainians who die, I don't know if you saw this funeral that was conducted in Kiev on Friday for this soldier whose nom de guerre, or name of war, was Da Vinci. It's deeply sad, but it is also the people that were spoken to at the memorial were like, we have to make sure that his sacrifice wasn't in vain. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. We have to do this right. And even after the war, we have to remember those who died, and we have to build the best version of Ukraine that we possibly can. So,
Hey, it's almost
you know,
like why Memorial Day and Veterans Day in the United States has meaning as well beyond just what, who died and who fought, but what they died and fought for is a reminder to you and other people when you're doing it to, recognize the sacrifice was for something and make sure it's worth it and not, charge up the Capitol steps when you lose and blame somebody else and try to take over the government in a coup, because you effectively might as well be urinating on all the graves at Arlington when you do that. Other than that, I have no opinion. Let's. We got a couple minutes before we need to take our final break. What do you got there, Johnny?
I've got from Dee Dee, who's been very kind in today's chat. She would like to know, or they would like to know, has Phil seen any American troops there? Since my son is in Poland training Ukraine soldiers.
I presume that what she's asking is, have I seen any U.S. soldiers like on the line or stuff like that? Aside from the the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, who are not sanctioned or sent by the United States, those are individuals making individual choices. No, I have not seen any. It is my understanding the only uniformed serving members of the United States military that are present in Ukraine are military attaches at the embassy or at a consulate somewhere. I believe we have a consulate down in Odessa. Right. But as far as on the front lines, no. Now, interestingly enough, and I posted this on my Twitter feed yesterday as I was driving from from Kiev to Kharkiv, and then down south to Slovyansk, we were driving on that Kiev-Kharkiv road, and for the first time in this entire war, I saw a U.S. UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter. There aren't a lot of them in country. I think there are only two, so it was a rare sighting. There is a question of, were those Ukrainian pilots or are those U.S. pilots that have been seconded? The Black Hawks have been given to military intelligence, so I don't know. But it was very interesting to see the Black Hawk flying in operations in Ukraine. And I took a quick snapshot. It was going low and fast, and I got my camera out as quickly as I could, and I got a shot. It is not the sharpest photograph in the world, but I believe it is the first recorded photographic evidence of a Black Hawk helicopter in operation in Ukraine, and it's taken by yours truly. So go to my Twitter feed and take a look.
Well done. Very quick on the draw. Also, for the record, in war zones like this, where the U.S. has, like intelligence support or those kind of things, one of the things we will sometimes do is offer highly advanced technological vehicles, including Black Hawk helicopters and that are actually for fighting, but as transports for very important people because they move so quickly and they have countermeasures.
This was given to the GUR, which is the military intelligence service, and that would be VIPs. Those are what we call secret squirrel kind of guys, and those need to be moved around the country quite quickly. And a Black Hawk is a very good vehicle to do that. And one last quick thing to Dee Dee, who asked that question. Dee Dee, you should be very proud of your son. He's doing God's work. He is training people who are fighting for their independence, and he is returning the favor that people like, the not Sheptytsky, but Klemitsky fought in our American Revolution, Polish, Lithuanian, Ukrainian soldiers who came and liberated our country from King George. Lafayette. Your son is doing the same thing. Lafayette, your son is doing the same thing. He's paying back the favor that we deeply owe to the people of this region who fought in our revolution. So be very proud of your son.
Right. Absolutely. Let's go. We went a little bit over, so let's take a break right now.
Time for one more. No, you want to go? Okay.
No, we got to take a break. Yeah, we're
clock.
well over it. We jumped it. Yeah. So we'll be back right after this. It's the Houseparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million and Philip Ittner at Philip Ittner on Twitter. Follow him and also go to his vlog on YouTube. We'll be back right after this. I gotta say, the stuff around, the shift in Georgia is pretty impressive. I don't doubt, just as, I'm sure you would believe that part of Jake Sullivan's conversations with the Georgian president and their swift move on that has to do with American aid for Georgia going, hey, man, you don't have to rely on these guys for anything. You're not that big a country. We can help out. We're a big powerhouse, and we'd rather help you.
And we look. I mean, we owe the Georgia. I mean, just like I said, we owe the Ukrainians from our revolution. We owe the Georgians. I mean, Georgians served in Iraq and in Afghanistan. They didn't have to do that.
Right.
The chat is saying apparently Jimmy Carter has passed.
Oh man.
Oh well.
Well, Chicago,
he
no
lived
happy
a long,
ending song.
lovely life.
But no happy ending.
No happy ending.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing to talk about because
absolutely, he lived an amazing life.
Mm-hmm.
He set an example for all of us.
Yep.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I don't know if this is a fact, but there's some reporting, I guess, in the chat is mentioning that Jimmy Carter may have just passed. He had returned home for hospice care to live out the remainder of the illness that he was fighting at home, surrounded by loved ones. He may these kind of stories leak out and then don't go, but I think it's never a bad time to remind everybody. Not only was Jimmy Carter a good and decent human being and a great example for what a post-presidency should look like, what a general retirement should look like almost for any human being. The man built houses for Habitat for Humanity. He was a man of faith and honesty. He was a good soul. He was memed by the right for a very long time, using the financial circumstance that he was in when he took office, and the battle about oil reserves in the world that was going on at the time was laid at his feet and used by the Reagan campaign when they were coming in as an excuse to belittle him and the United States itself while they were trying to, shoehorn Reagan into the White House. And ultimately, the reality is the tale that will be told is that Jimmy Carter is one for the history books. Period. End of story. If he's still with us, I love him, and if he isn't, I love him, and I am grateful that he existed in my lifetime.
Here.
Yeah. So that I just that needs to be said. There's a 2 days ago.
It's
there
one
was
of those times when somebody who passes. I mean, none of us get out of here alive. It's coming for all of us, but. What an extraordinary life that man led, and what if indeed he has passed, and an example for everybody. So sad, but what a great life.
Exactly, and just to the last, as a human being, just living a good life to the last. I think that isn't it's really heartwarming. I can't, what picture of Jimmy Carter I have in my head. Because when I was growing up, and we're all basically in the same zone of Gen Xers where we would probably, a window close at least of the same kind of a experience of him. It's kind of 70s hairdo, him and Rosalind, that
teeth.
one, black and white pictures in the Peanut Farm and the kind of gags around that. And Dan Aykroyd's masterful bit of Jimmy Carter talking a guy down from a bad LSD trip, which if you have not
remember that at all.
If you have not
funny.
seen that SNL sketch, it's really fascinating, and I really think it's one of those sketches where we got to make fun of the president because that's what we do here or whatever. But you could tell Dan Aykroyd loved Jimmy Carter as a human being. He really did like him. So he's like, how do I make a joke out of this without making a joke out of the man because he doesn't have it coming? And it was one of the best versions of that I have ever seen. It is so funny. If you haven't watched it, please do.
No one can find backup.
That is true.
The Carter story. Yeah.
Well, I will say that if he lives another 10 months or 100 years, or they cure what he's got and it's magic and they stem cell him back to life, I don't care. Everything I'm saying about him is absolutely true right now, and that's good.
Yep.
And it's worth saying. There is also, but the other picture that I have in my mind, and I'm curious about your guys' take on this, is the one where he's working for Habitat for Humanity with his black eye. Remember when he fell in the kitchen and he hurt his eye, and he went back to building out, and he's hammering nails, and mainly because the screw gun was a bit heavy, but so he was not doing that stuff, but he was hammering nails into a house that somebody lives in right now. Somebody lives in the house that Jimmy Carter, with his black eye from falling over it, at the time 89 years old, whatever it was, 90 years old, hammered nails into your roof. That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. That place should be a monument. Jimmy Carter's house is everywhere.
His warning about American oligarchy, I think was very prescient and something we should be conscious of. He's a wise man. He is, if he's still alive, someday
shall be
he
remembered
will pass.
as. Yes.
Indeed. Amazing guy. Amazing.
Okay,
guy.
So we will.
Let's hope he's alive.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. But at the very least, we appreciate him, and it's good. It's worth saying in this moment. It's a good reminder constantly.
Hear, hear.
And so let's end with a few more questions, Johnny, if we can.
Here's a lighter question from Karma Raven. Sola is a Ukrainian food. What does Phil think?
Ha! Salo. Salo. It's pig fat. We had some in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why didn't you ask
It is bacon without the. It's bacon without the meat. Basically,
it's not all that pesky meat.
It's just pig fat.
It was so
it's
good.
Delicious. It's
and
delicious.
Basically,
really dark bread.
Well,
yeah.
I don't think it's good for you. You and I have had a conversation about that in the past, but I don't care if it's good for you or not good for you. I think it's delicious. I love salo.
The bread
especially
is the bad
chopped
part.
up with some garlic. Ooh, yes.
Yeah, the bread's the bad part. It's the delivery
I
system
recommend
that's
everybody
the
try it. I recommend everybody find a Ukrainian restaurant in their area and go experience the cuisine. And if nothing else, just also just show some support for your local Ukrainian diaspora, folks. That if you can find a Ukrainian restaurant near you, go check it out. Try some salo yourself. Try some golupsi, which is meat in cabbage. It's a cabbage roll, basically. Try some vareniki, which are dumplings of any different kind of variety. Ukrainian food is it is hearty. It puts meat on your bones for those cold Ukrainian winters, but it's also delicious. And if you can get some of the horseradish vodka, try a little of that if you're a drinking person.
Golupsi is what I say when I spill glue.
But yeah, go to your local Ukrainian restaurant. Try out some of the food. You won't be disappointed.
And then tweet a picture of yourself there to both Philip and me and Johnny, to all three of us.
Yes, please.
Like, on our Twitter handles or
show some love for Ukrainian people. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, Johnny, maybe we got
another one. We got another 5 minutes or so.
Miss P Dubs, has Ukraine made any strikes into Russia lately?
Lately, lately is the operative word in that question. I don't think there has been anything that pops into my mind lately, but they continue to do. There are fifth columnists and there are guys inside Russia who are working on Ukraine's behalf, blowing stuff up and that kind of stuff. There are the occasional drone attacks. There's some their own homemade kind of cruise missile that they've shot into Russia, but I can't think of anything that's happened in the last, say, 5 days, week or so. But it's imminent. It'll always be there because they don't intend on taking any Russian land, at least pre-1990, land. The dispute is Crimea, whether or not Crimea is properly Russian land or Ukrainian land, and that gets into a whole other bunch of stuff. They do not intend to take any land that was not theirs prior to 1991. I can tell you that. There's no interest in Ukraine doing that. But they will attack their factories and they will attack their military assets within Russia. And if it hasn't happened in the last week, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, anytime.
So a week ago, just so people know, there was an explosion at a factory about 100 miles. There was a military base. Yeah, it was 100 miles from there. And then 2 weeks ago, there was an explosion at a bomb-making factory. A woman was killed. It literally sounds like somebody dropped a bomb on its nose, and boom. But that blew up the factory. And again, you're talking about a munitions factory where they're making the stuff they need, and they're already behind.
They're killing Ukrainians with it, so it's legit.
And then they
Yeah,
blew up
sadly.
their own selves in this. But the mystery explosion was in Kolomna near Moscow Thursday evening a week ago. State-run
Right.
news said RIA Ravosti reported, citing the city administration. Cause is unknown. Footage circulating online describing the explosion as being preceded by a loud whistle followed by smoke and a glow. So you can draw from your own beliefs about whether it was a missile or whether it was a drone attack or whether they fired at themselves by accident. Because again, the Russians are scoring on their own goal constantly. It's very weird.
That's true.
But they're doing it. Okay, another question. We got a couple minutes left. 2 more minutes probably.
So Zemirmin asks, should we be worried about the hypersonic missiles Russia has been bragging about? And Siha's
No.
also asking, how bad was the hypersonic missile attack?
No, we shouldn't be worried about it because they have a limited amount of them, and they're going through them faster than they can produce them. I've been under fire from. I slept through the one in Kiev because it was so early in the morning, but I've been under fire from a hypersonic missile. I got it when I was in Odessa. It's a very odd feeling, and it is terrorizing. It is a completely different kind of munition. It hits with such a strong impact because of the speed in which it's going, that it has a very odd kind of impact result, and it's really disturbing. It's very upsetting. But should we be worried about them in terms of some sort of larger strategic aspect? No, not really. Can we get one more quick one in? You think? I think we can do it. Come on, Johnny.
Yeah, so David Zapin asks, does China hope for better access to Ukraine food stuff?
I mean, sure. After this is all said and done, I mean, unless they start providing weapons, they did some sort of symbolic thing where they said they were going to like fix some things and send them back to Russia, but they're not going to be providing weapons. And as long as they don't cross that red line, after this is all said and done, I mean, Ukraine's going to be in business again, and they're going to want to sell stuff. They'll sell them to China, and if China wants to buy, their money's as good as anything else.
Yep, food and medicine are not a problem. That brings us to the end of the show. I really appreciate Philip being here. He'll be with me hopefully again on Wednesday. We'll try to track this out and keep us up to date.
Keep watching my Twitter. Yeah. I will be reporting from the Donbass and the frontline area and the combat zone for the next several days. So
excellent.
Follow along.
I will also be, I've got Tuesday's the Jam, so I don't have a show that day or whatever, but at some point, Johnny Million and I are going to be on his live stream. We're going to figure that out as well. We'll announce that soon. Ron Filipowski will be on my morning show on the live stream on Monday morning. He's my guest then. And then Philip, and then a surprise guest on Friday. Yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks, Chicago. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. It hurts my voice, my throat to hear me singing then, because I sing so much better now that I'm like killing myself to do that. And now I can hit those notes without batting an eye. And it's just like, what are you doing, child? You are running your throat raw. So love you guys. I have to rush out after this one, and then I will see you. Yep,
I'll see you. I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Yeah, excellent. All right, take care of
guys.
yourself.
See you, Johnny. Thanks. See you, Al.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. See you later, Johnny Million. Everybody,
Bye.
big love
Love
for Johnny
you, Mr.
Million.
Hale.
Come on. All right, you're just awesome. Yeah, I'm just saying it. It's true. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a lot of pudding.
It is. It's totally a lot of pudding. Anyways, I will send you. I was going to send you a link. Oh, the butter thing. I'll send you the butter thing after I'm done.
Please.
And then I got to send Phil the AI link. All right, there we go. So I got work to do after this. Okay. And then I've got a meeting about more Patreon stuff after this. So we're going to try and we're trying to grease those wheels. Okay. Much love, everybody. See you next time. Cheers. Bye, Johnny Million. Bye, Johnny Million. There you go. And thank you guys so much. Hold on one second. Let me do this little thing. Where is it? Okay, there we go. I will see you guys Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Ron Filipowski will be my guest second hour. I think we're confirmed. We're pretty good. I would love to have Blue Gal and Drift Glass on Friday if I can arrange that, if they have the time. Sometimes they overlap with when they do their stuff and when I do my stuff. But I'd like to bring them on for the second hour on Friday. See if we can arrange with a conversation about some of the stuff they've been covering, especially around the committee hearings and the Trump lawsuits, which we haven't even been able to dive into because there's so many of them, and they become such a sort of like a low hum in the background. And if you go to Truth Social, and don't, it's a waste of your time, but if you ever look at any of his posts from there, his panic about these cases, what his lawyers are telling him about his real culpability and the genuine legal danger he faces in these cases is freaking him the fuck out. And he is just wigging. And so I'd like to go through and kind of like create a scoreboard of what's, you know, I got to do that anyways, but it'd be nice to do that with them and with Decoding Fox and people like that, to kind of go through the, you know, just kind of clear it out, because he's got, you know, 5 major legal problems right now, and they're all going at once. Yeah, the panic is palpable. It's hilarious. Anyways, adore you guys. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else, and I'll see you on Monday. Okay, bye.